here's another reason why you want to take control of what you're doing.
Everything kind of funnels into the only winning move is not to play the game.
So I got to ask permission to buy the gun, and then I got to pay to ask permission to carry the motherfucker outside of my house. How about you go fuck yourself?
And that's the way we start the premiere episode of The Weathered Report. How you guys doing? This is Bruce, aka The Weathered Soul, here on the first episode, the premiere episode of The Weather Report. And hey, it's just glad to have you here. This is our first ever episode of this particular podcast. If you have been following me on Facebook or on YouTube before, you know that I came from another episode of the Weathered Soul podcast, but that is far and long gone. I tried to come back and do a solo one, and that wasn't going to happen. So I got a couple of buddies together, and right now we're just going to give you the bird's eye view of what's happening in this space. And right now I've got my buddy Jason, my buddy Carcos, Ken from Wisconsin, and I'm just going to let them introduce you a little bit of their bios. So you guys, whenever you want to shout out, because we've already been doing this for 45 minutes, so we might as well keep going. What do you say, guys? Hey, Chris, you go first, bud.
All right, so yeah, my name's Harkos. Legal name's Chris. That's how these guys pretty much know me, but everywhere on the internet it's Harkos. So I'm pretty hodgepodge of a little bit of everything. Previously had a radio show style podcast for about 4 years, but now my main podcast that I have outside of working with these guys is called Music Making Sense Podcast. Myself and my co-host, we're both artists, and we talk about music marketing, and we work one-on-one with artists as well too outside of the podcast to help them grow their marketing and their brand and everything like that. You can find any and everything Music Making Sense Podcast over at musicmakingsensepod.com, and that's music making with no G at the end, and then sense like the money over there at, like I said, musicmakingsensepod.com. And yeah, you know, I do all kinds of stuff, got all kinds of interests. And so teaming up with these guys I've known for a few years to talk about any and everything about personal sustainability and just like trying to live life as free as possible. As y'all saw in the intro, that was actually a clip from one of our previous meetings whenever I kind of started going off about how all gun laws are unconstitutional, you know, and you know, we can get into that later on, but I got some extreme views on some things, but yeah, my main focus is music marketing and helping people grow.
Cool, man. Absolutely, man. That's so cool. And I tell you what, man, just meeting you guys. I mean, we all have the connection from Jason Stapleton, and I just want to give him a big shout out because we would have never met without Jason Stapleton. We've been listening to him for a long time. I think he's a mentor of all of us, and it's just been a special bond between us. And I'm so lucky to have a couple of guys that wanted to co-host with me and go the extra mile with me and do all this. So next up is Ken from Wisconsin. There, Ken, you're Ken MaddK.
Yeah, MaddKstudio.com.
There you go.
All of your art needs and motorcycle. Yeah. So my name's Ken. I'm from Wisconsin, like you said. We got a cool little group right here. We got one West Coast fanatic, that's Bruce, and then the rest of us are normal Midwest people. I'm an artist, product designer, graphic designer, photographer. I've spent my whole life working in the art world of some sort. And, you know, I just, it's hard to say, it's hard to describe what I do, because I do a lot of different stuff. I'm a collector of skills, I guess you'd say, that's art related. I like to do things, I like to paint, airbrush. I like to weld metal. I like to drive fast cars, motorcycles, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of a motorhead artist person. I'm an absolute gun fanatic, which is funny because I don't hunt and I don't fish. I don't snowmobile. I don't like sports. I'm pretty much a chick. So if it wasn't for cars and motorcycles and guns, you know, I'd be doing Bud Light commercials. So that's just a little bit about me. I did spend about 10 years wasted of my life working in the Minnesota Republican Party, trying to make a difference and bring actual liberty to people, and realized, you know, my background from way back, I'm from Massachusetts, and I grew up very liberal and very democratic. And then as I As I got older, I went to the opposite direction and was just a Fox News Republican, the worst kind. And after 10 years of working in the system, I just spit myself out because I realized nobody cares. They don't care. So if you don't have $10 million to bring to the table or 20,000 votes, no matter what you do, you're just going to be used, and you're going to make little flyers and go knock on doors and do stuff, and it's not going to make a damn bit of difference until you realize how to do it, and then you can make a difference in your town, and that affects you more than anything. So anyway, that's my artist in me, I guess. It's hard to describe kind of the world I'm in. I'm pretty much just a lunatic, so that I'll leave it at that.
Right. Next up is going to be Jason Radasevich, right? Did I give that right, Jason?
Not even close, but that's fine.
Isn't it like Rasadovich or something like
No,
that?
It's pronounced Smith.
No.
Oh, it's the Jason Smith. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Everything is silent in there, right?
Yep. Everything is silent. Just yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jason.
Yeah. Unlike Ken, I'm not a chick. So I run Horrible Designs. Basically, it's anything and everything that can be funny. Stuff that you shouldn't put on anything, stuff that can get you fired from your HR department, stuff that makes HR departments cry. I am an equal opportunity offender, so I offend everybody and anybody. I don't hold back from anything. I do stuff that's funny. I do stuff that's not funny. I do stuff Christmas themed. Anything and everything. Pretty much I will put on to something, and if somebody says, "Oh shit, you should have done that," then I know it's a keeper.
Don't worry,
Basically.
I saw that. And I myself, I am Bruce McGee. I am AKA the Weathered Soul, and I have been in the podcasting business since I would say 2014, but I really didn't get really serious about it until later on, probably 2017, 18, something like that, where me and my old co-host DJ Dougie had done just a conversational back and forth like you're seeing now, more political than anything else, but we just had a good time doing that. I have 200 plus episodes on the website, which is going to be, if you go to where you're going now and subscribe to the Weather Soul website. But yeah, I met these guys through Jason, and like I said, I've been podcasting because Jason was the one who actually got me into podcasting, because he was doing podcasting. Everybody was doing a podcast at that time, so why not? Never really quite caught on. I'm not a Joe Rogan. We're not Curry and Dvorak. We're not Jack Spurko. We're not Tom Woods, but we're going to be our own original little spice of life for everybody around here. I think we're going to do all kinds of different content, like Ken's an artist, Harkos is a music producer, I am in music, I'm in gardening, I'm in prepping, I'm in homesteading, I'm in politics, I'm in news, I'm in all kinds of different things that most everybody is into. And basically, one of our mottos on this podcast is going to be, the only winning move is to not play the game. And I think that's where we all get down to the nitty gritty of what we're talking about on this show, is that, we are, as far as the society that we live into now and the way that we live, there's really no winning move to gain yourself more notoriety, more success, more anything, except for not playing the game of what society is telling you to do. So we're kind of going to be the alter society for those that want to kind of tune in, and that's where I'm coming from. So basically, on the personal side, I'm married, I'm 64, I'm the oldest guy here on the screen. You'll be hearing these guys jab at me a lot because got hair growing out of my ears, and I can't hear very well anymore, and the sight's going. But I'm honored to have these guys as my co-host. It's going to be a great ride going forward, and I just cannot wait to just be rolling in with this crowd, because you guys are great. So that's where I'm at.
Has anybody ever figured out why hair grows out of the ears when you get old like that? Because I got hair in my ears, but it's very, very small, and like nose, a little bit different. But once y'all get the gray starts coming in hard, all of a sudden it starts coming out of the ears. Like, what the fuck? Why?
Well, what I know in my personal, I can't speak for you, Bruce, but in my personal experience, I found that the area in the back of my head that used to have a lot of hair in it has moved inward, and then it creates pressure in it. I think that's pushing it out, and I actually had to trim to put the headphones on before I did the show tonight because it's starting to, it starts to itch, and then you start hearing things, and that's when the voices start, and then you go back to the studio, make some more art. So I'm not sure what it is, but I have a feeling it's tied to the Friar Tuck thing I got going on here in the back, and my kids tell me they know when I'm mad because my bald spot turns red. Those are the kind of things you hear. That's why you have kids, so they can point out those things to you.
I do believe that's the reason why, just because of the fact that, of course, I'm losing my hair from the front to the back, and it's just the pressure is actually coming out my ears, so that's why my hair grows out.
If that causes the voices to come in, it's gonna get very loud in my fucking head by the time I start getting hair growing out of my ears. Then,
as I was telling you before the show, I said get used to it because pretty soon you're going to be shaving your earlobes and shit like that because you got hair growing out your earlobes too, which my wife hates because she loves playing with that stuff. I mean, I guess that's what old women do after a while, but she don't tell her I said that because she's on the other side of the wall here, probably listening to me getting mad.
You start beating on the wall. You always hear don't whenever you know you hit a topic you should shut up about.
Don't put me in your podcast. I don't want to be here.
I heard that. Well, you just put yourself into it because you start yelling on the mic.
I think some of the air or some of the hair coming out of your ears also helps drain out the sound of your wife.
Yeah, maybe that's it. The longer you twist the body,
that might be the most brilliant thing in creation that I just heard today.
Well, I think
maybe it's a filter. I'm not going to shave him anymore.
I think Jason's famous thing is that, like, the reason why he does his business is because, I'm like a 6-year-old, so why not freaking why not capitalize on my mentality? And
yeah, that is true. Yeah, you might as well.
It's such a great thing, man. So, hey, news of the day, man. What's going on? We got what, Iowa coming up, right? This whole thing going on with excuse me, I'm about ready to lose my voice, but Iowa. We got the Iowa caucuses coming up. Hold on.
Yeah, and like, are they even gonna let fucking Ramaswamy get in there? Because I heard that they just had a debate, but they didn't even let him get in on the debate or something like that as well, too. So
he's being blackballed right now.
Brown bald, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he so are we still on YouTube? But yeah.
If we're not on YouTube,
I can tell you what. So you bring this up, and this is a good point because I watched our local news here. I watch in the morning. I don't watch local news, but I want to see the weather and the traffic and the normal BS and whatever little things going on the weekend. But so I watched our little Fox 9, Channel 9 news here. It's a Minneapolis station. I'm in Wisconsin, but I'm close enough that I get Minneapolis stations. And they talked about the Iowa primary. And I noticed this too, because they were showing, all right, here's DeSantis and here's Nikki Haley, and they're fighting back and forth to see they never once mentioned Vivek. They never once showed him. It's like he never even existed. That's what I'm saying. He's being blackballed.
I think it's because he called out what's her nuts from the RNC on the last
time
he was on the stage.
Time.
And he called for her to get replaced, and she's like, how about I just delete you? But he can't get deleted though. Like that dude,
because he's on the ground. This is going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, he's
on the ground in Iowa.
He was just on Dave Smith podcast again the other day.
Yeah,
he's been on Dave Smith probably like 40 times.
Yeah,
he was on like every couple of weeks. It's pretty, but he's everywhere.
He won't turn down and this is what this is. Nope. I don't know enough about him, and I never trust anyone that's running for office, especially that one. But he's something that really is fresh. Trump was fresh to a point when he came out. It was like, okay, he's bucking the system, but he's been using the system for 40 years. Let's be honest; it's not a big deal. He understands the system and knows how to do it. And he's been in media with a top show for years. I mean, he understands the system. The people that anyone that was surprised at it is like, come on. Just think. But Vivek is great because he's also a billionaire. So he's not going to be a guy that's going to be bought. And everyone's telling him he's Soros money, and that's I don't buy any of that. This guy is self-made, and his story is compelling, and everybody is piling on and that's how you know he's probably on the right track.
Mhm.
One of the big problems with the Republican Party is he's not a Christian, and you know,
Yeah, they pointed that out in one of the episodes too. They or
absolutely.
one of the debates. I mean, they asked him about that or whatever, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I see how it is."
Yeah, and exactly, and the Christian, I include myself in that world because I'm a believer. I believe in God. I believe in Christ. I believe the whole story, the Bible, everything. I buy it. All right. But I don't care if someone's a Christian or not. For if they're speaking truth to
shit they
power.
gave Kennedy about being a Catholic, they're like, "Oh, we elect Kennedy, the Pope's going to run the White House."
Well, they were right about. Well, they were right about that. Damn it.
Well, yeah, but that's just because he was in the pedophile ring with all the other people around the government.
But no, it's true. So when you get somebody that actually, you look at who's attacking a person, and that's how you can usually tell whether or not this is good. You've got, Nikki Haley is. First of all, let's just say none of them have a shot. Trump's going to win this whole thing. He's going to go and he's going to have to run against I don't know who.
Unless
So,
I
don't know who's going to run against.
Unless the rare chance that they were able to remove him off of most ballots, or just non-person him, then that would be like the only way to do something else. But
the write-ins, if they do that, the write-in people that'll just want to buck the system and just be like, screw you can't take them off. The write-in people will come out of the woodwork and write them in.
Yeah, but see, the way I see it with that too is like, as soon as people say write-ins, I'm like, okay, but didn't they do shenanigans last time and make sure he didn't get in office? You think that they're not going to do that again? I mean, they've been showing their hand more and more. They're like, hey, look, we will do whatever the fuck we want to, and you will sit there and you will shut up and you will watch your Netflix and eat your GMOs and just drink all the soy that we tell you to drink.
They are not even hiding it now, man. Because
no, they're not.
I believe Biden's gonna freaking bow out probably not too long from now. Probably by
June.
I'd say June, maybe May.
I've been hearing a lot of people say convention,
and I think they're gonna freaking throw Gavin Newsom or possibly.
Michelle.
I don't know if Michelle Obama's really a viable candidate, but she might be.
She's the only one that can win. She's the only one in the Democratic Party that could beat Trump.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
DeSantis has
Newsom has too much dirt.
Newsom has no shot.
He shamed. DeSantis shamed Newsom in that debate.
But even still, even if they didn't do that, Newsom has a horrible reputation.
Oh.
They're trying to put him up there, like, they're trying to do the lipstick on a pig thing with his ass. It's not going to happen. But every time Michelle Obama speaks, like when she just did like last week or whatever, it's everywhere, and people are like, oh, and then they just throw her name in a poll and she's in like top 3.
Yeah, exactly. And she's terrified. She's terrified about what might happen in 2024.
She's terrified. Well, it's terrifying.
So terrified.
What's terrifying is having her in office.
imagine having to go to Harvard and have to. I mean, the tyranny that the African American woman like Michelle Obama had to have as being 8 long, just horrible years of being the first lady of the greatest country in the world, after having to gone through Harvard and other Ivy League schools and done.
I don't want to hear
just say let's just say almost nothing.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it because they elected an 80-year-old freaking dementia guy. All right.
I think that shows more than anything.
They all freaking cried about, a woman can't break the glass ceiling and all this other crap. And then what they do? They elected a freaking white old freaking guy with dementia. I mean, Yeah.
And I don't care about race, but is there a whiter dude than Joe Biden? I mean, he's got a Corvette and a set of New Balance and cargo shorts, and
a history of being a loud as fuck racist.
Exactly. There's that too.
Like a long history.
And the biggest hypocrite too, because what's the state you put your company in if you don't want to pay if you want the lowest taxes? It's a Delaware LLC.
Is there anybody creepier than freaking Joe Biden? Seriously. Even in his dementia stage, dude, I don't know.
I don't know. It's just crazy. But like the way I see it, like I
Fetterman's a
started,
little creepier, but that's
yeah,
just because he's been, he had a
Oh,
stroke.
you mean the Rhino
Poor guy.
Darling now? The Rhino
Yeah.
Darling Fetterman? Yeah. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, they like him now because he's speaking out against the Democrats.
Yeah.
I don't
He
know.
bumped his head. He bumped his head on a door sill on the way into
But
the
that's how
thing, and
crazy this
knocked some sense
political
into
scene is, dude. It's just like one day, you're like a rock star, right? One day you're on top of the world, the next day you said something wrong, and now all of a sudden you're shunned and getting canceled and all that other crap, dude.
Yeah,
I've been
just
through
like
a lot of
Cuomo.
these, man. It's just like Ken. Ken has more political experience than I have. I've probably been through more elections than he has. And Chris, I've definitely been through more elections than you have. But I mean, this shit has been going on since
Eisenhower, right? When you voted?
Yeah, I don't know Eisenhower.
You had I like Ike on your forehead for a while,
I first
right? You
voted
wrote-
when I first voted, I voted for Reagan. That was
I voted my first, and I'll bring this out too. So my first voter was for Michael Dukakis.
okay.
So I know I can see Chris looking at like Michael to who?
No,
So-
you liked it when he had the helmet on.
Well, here's the deal. Michael Dukakis lived in Brookline, Massachusetts. I grew up in Westwood, Massachusetts. My father was the director of music in Brookline. So he was the music teacher and band director and stuff for the Brookline school system. And he had Michael Dukakis as all of his kids went through that school system. And he got to be friends with Michael Dukakis. And this is why I voted for him. This is why I say, voters are mostly morons, because that was me. I thought if I could vote for him and he would get in the White House, my dad would have a chance to play with his big band in the White House. That was my sole reason. I'm like, my dad might be able to play in the White House.
Well,
Wow.
Even better, during that election, that was 1988. I was in Minneapolis at Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and so I wasn't registered to vote or anything. There was a group called Acorn that would do the get out the vote thing. Well, they'd go to colleges, and an art school in Minneapolis. Is there a better place to go and drag people to the polls? So I went to the polls with them, and they were giving out packs of Marlboro Reds. They're like, come out to vote. If you want, we'll give you a pack of cigarettes. And I'm like,
That's
this
hilarious.
is all right. No, I smoked like 2 packs a day at the time, so I was a fool. And I went and voted for Mike Dukakis. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. It wasn't until years later that I found out I could be thrown in prison for that. That was 1988. What did I know? So
we just lost our last viewer.
there you go.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
anyway,
But
yeah, go ahead.
like I said, I grew up in Massachusetts, and the Kennedy dynasty was still, Ted Kennedy was the last of it, and he was the guy that I think they just keep electing him because they felt bad for the rest of all his brothers that got killed.
Yeah, probably.
And what we were taught. I remember reading. So I grew up in Western Massachusetts. One of the books we had to read in high school was a book called The Constitution. It was a small little flyer. Well, not flyer, but just a small book, like 20, 30 pages, little paperback. And it was called The Constitution, the Myth That Binds Us. And it was like a layout of platitudes of just BS about the country, about there are a bunch of rich white slave owners. And it was just a terrible thing. And I'm like
the same thing as now, right?
Yeah. So, but this is when it started. I'm saying this is I graduated high school in 86.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you look at the people that bought it, that were my age. I'm 55, and now they have kids that are in their 30s, right? This is why we are where we were, because they took over the education system, and they always owned the media, but they had to be careful with it. Now they don't have to be careful anymore. Like you said a few minutes ago, Bruce, they're saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
They're telling us what we're doing. I mean, in Minnesota, I lived in Minnesota for many years. I moved out of there where I just couldn't take it anymore because it had just gone so far left. But Keith Ellison, I mean, one of the things I would tell when I was working in the Republican machine, I'm like, you guys got to look at what Keith Ellison does. He's telling you who he is. He isn't stepping around or sidestepping any of it. He's just saying, I'm radical. I'm a radical leftist, and I'm going to do radical leftist stuff the whole time. And then he gets into office and he does radical leftist stuff, and they go, how dare he? I'm like, well, what the hell did you think? It's exactly what he told you. Omar too, same thing. All these people in Washington, it's lost. Washington is completely lost. You need to take control of what you're doing in your little sphere in the 200 feet surrounding where you live every day.
Yeah,
Pretty
the whole
much.
consensus is that this has been going on forever. Like I said, right now it's a little bit more in your face than it ever has. I mean, I never thought that I would live to see what I'm seeing now with the political environment the way it is, the division. I think it's always been a 50-50 divide between, us and them, or them and us, or whoever you want to identify with, as long as you don't put your pronouns up on
all the way back to Adams and Jefferson.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you look at I think I can't remember if I got it backwards or not. My history might be a little bit off, but when Adams and Jefferson were running against each other for president, I think it was Adams that said something to the effect of, Jefferson was a hermaphrodite who lacks neither the strength of a man nor the delicateness of a woman. I mean, if you look at what they were saying about each other back then, and this was actual. I mean, this is
and that's why they put freedom of speech in that motherfucking shit,
right? Because Adams was calling him a hermaphrodite because he was neither gentle like a woman or strong like a man. He was neither.
That's awesome.
And they talk about it later in life. In one of the beauties of the founding of this country, when I always go back to it, these guys weren't idiots. And they also discussed everything, but there was no internet, of course. There wasn't even electricity or anything. All they could do is write eloquently to each other, and they did it in letters back and forth, which were all preserved, kept. They're published. They're around. You can read them. What these guys were saying to each other of like, I don't know, you guys. I think we're giving ourselves too much power here. This isn't good. Or, we need more power. This isn't enough. This is all going to fall apart. And the first thing they put together did fall apart. It fell apart completely. That's why we have a constitution, because the Articles of Confederation were an absolute joke.
But don't you know, Ken, that all those writings, those were just manufactured back in the 80s under Reagan, and in order to brainwash everybody, right? The Constitution was never written, and that's all fictitious.
Yeah, well, you can think that, Chris, but actually, in 1984, when we went to the moon on the shuttle, they found it in a box that was up there.
Yeah,
and they brought it down, and they made up the story about the early 80s and stuff like that. Yeah,
did Nicolas Cage prove the Constitution does exist?
Yeah, because he found it.
That's right.
Yeah, because he found it. Yep, that's absolutely right.
Just a bunch of guys who came over from the pond and brought all their freaking baggage with them, and that's why that's where we're here today.
Right. Well, I mean, so as we said in the beginning, like, we all met via Jason Stapleton and stuff that he's been building and everything like that with his network and everything like that over the years. I got out of the Army in 2008, and that's when I voted for Obama, because, that's what it was, helping change. I am the reason. Well, I was fighting in the wars that Bush fucking started. And so whenever I got out of that, I was like, what, let's do something different, because that was fucking horse shit, because whenever I went over there, I realized it wasn't about nothing that we were being told over here. And I started learning a bunch of things, everything like that. That started really waking me up. And then while I was in Iraq, I watched the documentary, The Power of Nightmares, which that is an amazing documentary. You guys can watch it up on YouTube or whatever. Just type it in. It was a BBC documentary that was put out in like 2006 or something like that. And it actually talks about the politics of fear and how, politicians always used to promise like a better day and stuff like that, well, then politicians realized that they can actually garner more power by controlling people with fear. And so they started using fear of the other, whatever it is, in order to gain power and be like, hey, if you don't let us control, then it's going to be them. And that's, they realized that a lot, and then the documentary culminates with all the nonsense of how, it goes into how, Leo Strauss came to America and he saw the self-centeredness of Americans and how it was, leading to the decay of America and everything like that. And then, that's when the neocons were formed out of the Straussians and, with Paul Wolfowitz and all of them and everything like that, and then, the funding of the Mujahideen against the USSR. And then that Mujahideen ended up turning up into Al-Qaeda and everything like that. And then it's interesting because, especially being 20 years old in Iraq, watching that, you're just like, get me out of here. What am I doing?
Right.
You know, because then you start putting everything else together. Because like once you see how history goes up to a certain point, if I believe that if you're smart enough, you can continue following that playbook because it's a playbook, you
Well,
know. And so then I sit there and kept looking, you know, and so like that's it. I went for Obama, and then you know, by 2010 I was done with him, you know. And so then I went on with you know, Gary Johnson in 2012, and that was even after the what is Aleppo, you
right.
know, stuff like that. But then by the time 2016 came, I was on a different bend or whatever, and I voted for Trump in the primaries and in the general election because I thought that he was actually going to bring some real change. And things were okay for a few, but I was done with him within the first year of his office, and it had nothing to do with his mouth and his personality either. I actually like that. But you know, and what it was about was what he was doing, because I watch what people do and
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
actually do.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, how he handled 2020 was like
Despicable.
that.
It was,
Well, that was just, to me,
it was horrible,
like
dude.
not just how he handled 2020, but how everybody did it. You know, I'm
Yeah.
here in Indiana, you know, Governor Holcomb used to be the lieutenant governor for fucking Mike Pence and everything like that. Now he's the, you know, regular governor, stuff like that. You know, I'm sitting here looking around, and you know, when Jason started his show in 2016, it was a libertarian, well, 2015 or whatever, it was a libertarian podcast. I
Right.
started listening in 2016 because I was getting on the libertarian bend pretty hard. And then he pivoted in like 2018-ish to, you know, more of like, you know, business and economics and stuff like that, you know, but taking what we're seeing is going on and putting it into your own personal life to try to create your own, you know, sphere of safety for, you know, lack of better terms. And yeah. And so then by 2020, I realized the government's going to do whatever the fuck they want to do.
Mm.
So I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do and just try to stay the fuck out of their way,
Yeah.
because
I
I'm the only one that cares about my life. You know,
Right.
obviously my parents, but you know what I'm saying? But politicians don't give a shit about me. They only care about themselves. So I'm not going to give a fuck about them. I don't care about myself.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm out here just trying to do whatever I got to do to keep it grinding, keep it moving forward and everything like that. And I just want to be left alone, you know. And as a veteran, sometimes I hear
Amen.
people tell me, you know, oh, you need to go get the benefit. I just had a conversation. So I never told you guys this, but just found out one of the dudes I was in the army with, he went to the hospital because he was having a hard time breathing or something like that. And he ended up basically going into like a coma, and he's on life support, and they're pulling the plug tomorrow. Right.
Oh,
Sucks.
geez.
Yeah, he was one of my good friends, right? But
I'm
I
sorry
had
to hear that.
yeah, but I hadn't heard from him in a while. He's like, you know, he lives in Michigan and stuff like that. Yada yada bing bang. But anyway, so I was talking, somebody, one of the people I was in with told me about it and shit. And so, but then we got in the thing, they're like, oh yeah, you know, you need to go get the benefits you deserve. And you know, my co-host on my podcast is a veteran too. All these veterans always, you know, tell other veterans, oh, make sure you get all the benefits you deserve for serving your country, everything, you know, everything like that. But then I sit here, I'm like, the VA, they don't give a fuck either, you know. So like, why am I gonna go jump through all these hoops to try to get something from them that I'm deserved or whatever? And I told that person that I was talking to today, I'm like, look, I don't, the only thing I want from the government is for them to leave me the fuck alone and let me keep my fucking tax money.
Yep.
Like, that's it. Don't bother me. Just forget I exist. Give me that benefit. How about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want your fucking money. I don't want your grants and your VA this or VA that. Fuck all that. It's all poison anyway. All y'all want to do is inject me with some another experimental fucking anthrax vaccine against my will, like when I did when I was in. You know what I'm saying? I'm not dealing with none of that shit no more. Forget I exist in total and just leave me alone. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah. People will freaking sell their freaking liberty and their freedom for safety and security. And that is why we're here today doing this podcast, because that's what this podcast is all about, really, is that to
dude,
regain
and I
your
see
freedom.
these.
And,
I'm sorry to cut you off.
If you're going to sit there in 2024, and I know, Ken, this rubs you the wrong way a little bit because you love to vote. And I'm sorry, 2022 was my last vote. That was it. I'm done, dude. I have had it. It's like George Carlin says, it's a big freaking club, and you ain't in it, because
Nope.
all they do is they say that you have this, they don't want you educated. They want you educated just enough so you can follow the line, so you can follow the freaking the next person into power. And Ken, I admire you for loving the process of going out and voting. That's great. That's fine. That's all fine and dandy. But really, when it really comes right down to it, it's, to me, it's more entertainment to me. The last time I went in and voted, it was more of an entertaining process of being in there and looking at people and just going like, fuck, you got to be kidding me. and basically that's it. So one of the main premises of this podcast that I want everybody to understand, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're getting this on the audio podcast in the morning, on Monday morning, is that nobody, no matter who you vote for, whether it be Vivek, whether it be Haley, whether it be Biden again, whether it be Newsom, whether it be Trump, or whoever, they're not going to give you your liberty back. They're not going to give you your freedom back. You have to grab that freedom. You have to nurture that freedom. You have to live that freedom. You got to grab that freedom, and you have to protect that freedom. And by all means, because you're the only one that's going to be able to get it, protect it, and live it. And that's basically where we go from here, man. It's just like I said, the only way to move is to not play the game. And that's
Bruce.
basically, yeah.
On that note, I'm going to send you a fridge magnet and a can koozie that says vote for nobody, a politician you can trust.
Ooh, that's a good one.
There we go.
That's a good
Ken,
one.
before we get into the topic, I'm going to give you the final freaking word on what we're talking about here.
So we were we were talking about taking control of your own thing, and just the simple thing of collecting your own water. There's places in the country that you're not allowed to collect your own water off the roof of your house in the rain.
Unless you use it in your garden. That's it. Yeah, it's crazy.
What is that? One of the conversations that came up when we talked about it dropped from, we had a real in Wisconsin and Minnesota and the Midwest kind of had a warm winter so far, and then when the other shoe drops, it drops hard. So it went from like 50 degrees down to 40, 32, and then it just drops instantly to 10 below zero. Well, my sump pump, because there was still water in the ground, was still pumping out water. Well, then it turned to be 3 below zero. Well, it's pumping water out, which just freezes solid within 5 feet of the house. And so I wanted to replace my hose, so I'm out there messing with it and stuff like that. And I was really thinking, all this water is just going back out to where it came from. Why aren't I collecting this? Why don't I collect? This is really good, fresh, clean groundwater. Now, granted, when it goes through the sump pump and the different things that have to be cleaned, but for using it for watering a garden or watering the lawn, all that kind of great stuff. I don't use a bunch of chemicals and crap on my lawn. I basically use, I like to just have campfires, and I use the soot from campfires. That works really good. But I'm not a huge environmentalist. I just say, let's not destroy what we have.
Right.
But, just the fact of just the collecting of the water. So, product designer, things like that. I'm considering, how am I going to get a pump station to pump water up into barrels that I can put up high enough to make my own water tower in my backyard, hidden from the city, so that I can actually use that water for all kinds of different things, washing my car, for, watering the lawn, like I said, just anything I need water for that doesn't need to be like drinkable water. There's
water.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what I'm going for in my small little 1/4 acre lot here in the middle of Wisconsin.
Right.
This is something that I can do to take control. Like you said, what if, we're on city water here? I've been well water before. If we're in city water, what if something happens? I mean, once in a while you hear of a contamination or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, don't drink the water, boil it or whatever. Well, if I had, 6 55-gallon drums of water sitting up behind me that I could clean and boil, I wouldn't have to worry about that system at all when that would happen. It's like generating power. I have you know, I'm not a prepper or a survivalist at all. I'm not making excuses for it. I don't have any problem with that, but I have a propane heater that is for like a garage or something like that I always have, that if the power goes out, I can bring it in, hang it in the house with the propane tank, and you can burn it inside. It creates moisture, but it doesn't create a bunch of noxious gas. I used to use this to heat a shop when I was painting motorcycles. So, you know, I'm painting motorcycles in my garage, 2-car garage with an open flame that's 2.5 feet long, spraying the most caustic shit. And it's like I said, I'm not an environmentalist. All right. You know, don't think I am, but I know that it's not going to kill me, because it wouldn't even set that on fire. This cloud of, you know, polyurethane spray paint, it wouldn't, you know. So I have a way to get water, and I have a way to have heat. And that's huge, especially like right now. It was when I was painting, I have a 2-car garage and I insulated it. I did it all myself. And if it was 10 below, I could have it to be 60 degrees in that garage with this little propane heater. So I could paint and stick, because you need a certain temperature or the paint doesn't dry, everything gets screwed up. So I know it works. I know it's not going to kill you, and it's a survival thing. It also takes 0 power.
Mm-hmm.
You light it, it's a flame, you know, and that's it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
taking that water thing and just, you know, just that's one little step that I know, okay, at least I know if the power is going to go out for whatever reason, and I'm not worried about an EMP or any of that stuff. People get all worried about that. It's not going to happen. But, you know, a big blizzard can happen. An earthquake can happen. You know, tornadoes do happen.
And
What do you
kind
do?
of where we're at with the topic at hand. It's interesting that you brought up water, because we were talking about it before. We all knew what we were going to come up to. So, and where we're at is just like recently we had a pipe burst out on the middle of our street. It happened to be the water supply for everybody on my street. Well, we were out of water on Thursday night or Friday night. I think it was either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember what day. And all my neighbors were freaking out because they did not have any water. And you know, because of me and my preparations and being able to listen to Jack Spirko and some other people that are in the prepping mode. And that doesn't mean bullets, guns and beans and stuff like that. It just means practical living for practical people. And if I was to ask you a question, I'm going to ask the panel a question right now. It's just like, what do you think is the most important commodity to have in case of any type of emergency? So what would it be? Chris, you go first. What's the most, out of everything that you need to survive, what's the one thing that you need first?
Water.
Ken?
Yeah, absolutely. Water.
Well, I mean, it depends on what the weather is too. I want to say that if it is like it is right now, where it's -4 degrees before wind chill right here in Indiana, I would say heat, because it's
true.
snowing.
That's true. That's
I
a
can
good
go
point.
get water
And
outside.
it is.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that kind of scares me, is that I don't have a wood burning stove in my house yet. It freaks me out so much, because if the power goes out right now with the wind and the -4, like I'm kind of fucked.
So
like
that's
I got a small
that's
little
energy.
propane tank with a little torch out in my car or whatever, or not my car, but my shed. Maybe I can make something like that happen or whatever, but like I'm screwed, man.
Well,
Like,
I think in that situation, what you're looking at is okay. So you need heat, so you need energy. That is in, you know, probably the top 5 of things that you need. But you've got coats, you've got blankets and stuff like that. You probably make it in a -4 condition overnight if your roof happened to come off. I mean, you'd be cold, yeah, and stuff like that. But one thing for sure that you can't go out with for more than 3 days is water. And that's a fact. I mean, you can go without food for a couple of weeks. You can go without a roof over your head. You can go without energy for a little bit, but you cannot go without water. And I had to reply to a Facebook post from a friend of mine who posted that you know, they were freaking out because they didn't have any water. Well, you know, this happened during COVID too. So we all freaking lived through COVID, so we know that the toilet paper was gone and the water was gone, and it made sense that the water was gone, but it didn't really make sense that the toilet paper was gone, unless people were having explosive diarrhea everywhere. But I had COVID,
but I mean,
so I don't know.
at the same time, I never understood the fucking toilet paper freaking out thing, because like dude, you got a bathtub, right?
Yeah,
Grab a washcloth, take care of business. You know, I'm
that's
like,
right.
you don't
Exactly.
like
That's
that's
why I
the
have
most
bidets.
eco-friendly way to wipe your ass anyway. Don't have toilet paper like the recycled
My
green
wife,
toilet paper. No, get a washcloth that you can
my
keep
wife agrees
washing.
with you there.
Yeah, done deal,
Oh,
man. Like I never, yeah, right there, Ken. Yeah,
yeah.
use that little shimmy cloth.
Well, one of the
Done
things that I
deal.
wanted to kind of
Make it
exemplify,
shiny.
yeah, one of the things I wanted to exemplify in this podcast was the fact that we are going to be talking about prepping and survival and practical points of living. So, what I wanted to extenuate to everybody is that you got to have water. I mean, that's one of the first things to do. Ken said something about EMP. Well, yeah, there are EMP things that happen, and one of them is lightning, and that is
Yeah.
an EMP situation. So it can happen. So when I talk about survival, when I talk about prepping, when I talk about homesteading, we're talking about the practical steps that you need to take for things that can happen. We're not talking about the zombie apocalypse. We're not talking about a nuclear war. We're not talking
Well,
about
hold on. Let's not let's not detract from the beauty of a zombie apocalypse. I mean, us gun fanatics are waiting for this. We've been waiting our lives. Sorry, you can go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to clarify here.
but yeah, but what we're getting at is that the practical steps that you can take just to be able to be prepared for the next whatever goes down. I mean, you never know when it's going to go down. And one of the things is that when I'm talking about water, and this is something that I took from Jack Spirko, it's just like, okay, do you have 60 gallons of water for yourself? I mean, let's just start with a number for your family. Do you have 60 gallons of water stashed away somewhere where you can have it? That means whether you have bottled water, that you bought from Costco or some other big box store, whether you have it stored in a tank somewhere, or whether you have a bottle that kind of looks like this, a bottle like this.
Mm.
Okay. Those are these practical things that you can do to be able to say, hey, the water went out, and you go like, so what? Okay, I'm happy. I'm done with it. So I'm going to show you a couple of steps right here that I went through just yesterday because I had some extra bottles hanging around the house, and I want to be able to show you guys what to do if you have that problem where let's see, I got to get to the site here, and it's right there. There we go. So I'm going to share a little bit with you. So this is an empty juice bottle. Okay. Everybody buys juice from the store. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you squeeze your own, whatever. But you have bottles around the house, whether they be an Alhambra bottle, whether they be a bottle like this, a juice bottle, empty milk jug, stuff like that. All these things you can use to store the water. And this is not a gallon bottle, but what I'm saying is that if you have to bug out or something, let's say there's an earthquake, tornado, or whatever, you can grab a couple of these, throw them in your backpack, and be gone. I mean, water's pretty freaking heavy. It's 7.8 pounds a gallon. So if you grab a couple of these, you're going to make it for a little bit, but you're going to have some water and you can conserve it as you go. So what I did is I have these bottles right here. My family, we drink a lot of juice. I drink more squeezed juice than I do this processed stuff, but that's what my family likes. And basically what you do is you just wash it, put a little dot of soap in there. I mean, just a dot. That's all you need. Just a little dot soap in there. Wash it out. Fill it up, right? Just like I'm doing there. Shake it up, and then rinse it out. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to fill it up to about there. And then you want to take a little bit of bleach and about a teaspoon of bleach in the top of that thing, and then cap it off. And all you got to do is let that thing sit a couple hours. I let my stuff sit for a couple of days. And when I come back out of there, and what I do is I rinse it out real good, get all the bleach smell off of it. By that time, anything that's inside the bottle is dead because of the bleach. And then you just fill that water up with either your tap water or the water out of your refrigerator, cap it off, throw it in the closet, throw it on a shelf in your garage, whatever. Just know that as water ages, it'll lose its taste. But for the most part, if you get in the habit of rotating that water, kind of like you rotate anything in your pantry or anything like that, that water is going to keep fresh. And if you just start with the base of just getting the habit of getting yourself some extra water. I mean, even the water that you get from Costco, if you let it sit for a year, it's gonna lose its taste. Everything has taste in it, whether it be the minerals or anything that's in it. It will degas, it'll go away. But if you rotate that water, you'll always have some water available. And it's really important because you cannot last for more than 3 days without water. If you don't have water, you're dead. You're done. It's over for you. I mean, so you need that. Another thing that I can suggest for everybody who's kind of listening here, if you can get some kind of a water filter thing, they have water straws, they have Brita filters and stuff like that. You can practically take water from anywhere and make it good, especially with these straws that they have. And
life straws.
Yeah. And you can have water that way, because so in an emergency situation, you're going to have water. So it's good to be prepared for that. And that's kind of where I'm at with the water thing. This is one of the many subjects that we're going to be going through. We're going to be going through how to store your own energy, how to how to keep a roof over your head, how to keep the lights on, how to keep food, how to prepare food, how to can food. These are the things that I'm personally going to be going through when we do these podcasts. He's going to be doing more of the art stuff, more of the music stuff. Same with you, Chris. You're going to be doing some of the music stuff and some of the web stuff, all that stuff that everybody is kind of more expert in. I mean, but that is my expertise right now is going through the prepping stuff, the homesteading stuff, the gardening stuff, all that stuff, growing your own food. Chris, you're with me on that too. You grow your own food too. So you're going to be a great asset to me and be able to extenuate on that when we get into that subject. When we get into the subject of music, we're all musicians here. So we're all going to be, piggybacking on each other on that fact, and it's just like I'm excited for everybody here that we're part of this, and Jason's the same way. Jason's our merchandise guy.
Well, I think he's a musician, but only when he eats beans.
Jason, are you a musician?
Yeah, I think he's only when he eats beans, though, right?
Pretty much so, yes, Chris.
Jason, the man with no face. It's just kind of like Clint Eastwood, the man with no name. But
no, he's that Wilson from next door on Tool Time.
Exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, but so I got a question on that water. Well, first off, like I got one easy tip for if you want to store your own energy is just stop masturbating, and it keeps your energy inside your body. But I learned that the hard way. I was wondering why I was tired all the time. Right. I know. I'm sorry, but it'll help you with your energy. Okay. But okay, we got a comment. But anyway, he's probably not gonna comment on that one. But anyway, so I got a question about the water. Doesn't it? This is serious though. I mean, the masturbation thing, yeah, that's kind of serious too. But doesn't the water spoil after a certain amount of time? Like, don't you only have like 6 months or something like that?
No, water will not spoil on you. It'll just lose its taste.
What it also does is it leaches in whatever container it's in.
Correct.
Well, I know about that, but I thought I saw something where like people were like, yeah, if you store water in your house or whatever, you can't store it for more than like a year or something.
No,
like
you
that.
can store it for as long as you want. The thing is that it loses its taste. It can kind of taste bland. I mean, I'm drinking water now, and this is water out of my refrigerator. It's filtered water. Tastes pretty damn good.
Right.
And it filters all the freaking chlorination and stuff that's out. But the situation at hand is that for a survival type situation, you want to have that water, and if you keep the water out of the light, out of the UV, it's not gonna get algae in it or anything like that. Like I said, it'll turn bland. You can go to websites and you can kind of look it up, and some people say it spoils after a while, but no, there's no spoiling about it. It outgasses, it loses its taste. So
yeah, I never understood that. When people said that, I'm like, what's gonna okay, maybe it gets bacteria and bacteria starts going a little crazy or something, or the algae thing or whatever.
Water is a solvent.
Yeah, that's what I was just like. Yeah, I don't know.
That's why when you pour water on stuff, that stuff. Whatever's on whatever you're pouring it on comes off because it's a solvent. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. One thing I want to do. So I live like 20 minutes outside of town. I live on a well. But one thing I want to do that I got to do, like, it's one of the first one. So there's two things I want to do to my house where I'm at right now. And one of them is, like I said, get some kind of wood burning stove or something like that in here, which I was supposed to have done by this winter, but life sucks. So next winter, toes crossed. Everything keeps going the way it's going, should be okay, because I'm making some decent trajectory, Anyway, so the second thing I want to do is actually put one of those old school hand pumps on my well.
There you
You know
go.
what I'm saying? You guys know what I'm talking about. Bruce, that's all you guys had whenever you were growing up in your house, no electricity.
Right.
But like, you had the old school hand pump. You open the fucking thing up and it pours out. Like they got at fucking parks and shit like that, right? Well, I want to get one of those. And I actually used to work for Schwann's food delivery service. You know what I'm saying? The people in, Wisconsin, they know about that.
The yellow
But
trucks.
the yellow trucks will go round and round. And I actually delivered to the guy who installed like all the wells around this whole area, right? He owns the well service and everything like that. He's like the only guy out here. And so I was talking to him. I'm like, hey man, I wanted to put one of those manual pumps in and stuff. And he said that actually would have to have the well would have to be re-drilled.
Yes.
And put in there or whatever to put it on there. And I was like, oh, well, that'd be good anyway, because he's like, well, because I'm like, I want to go deeper. He's like, well, you're 65 feet deep. That's good. You'll be good for a while. I'm like, I want to go deeper because I didn't get into it with him, because I'm like sitting here. I'm like, the deeper I go, the better the water will be, the less bullshit from all these cornfields and everything. Cause I'm here in Indiana and everything like that. Less shit's going to be running down in there and everything like that. And I'm going to be able to get some pure stuff, and I'll be below everybody else. So when they run out, I'll still be solid. Right. And so for water, that's one thing that I want to do is actually have that manual pump. That way, if the electricity goes out, boom. And then if I got my wood burning stove, boom, because I already built a wood shed onto my shed in the back, because I got a shed in the back and a shed in the front. But my shed in the back, 2 Christmases ago, this is how awesome my life was. On Christmas Day, I was out building a wood shed, because I just, I didn't want to deal with anybody. So I just built a wood shed, and then I got like a bunch of wood chopped up and everything like that. And, anytime I see anybody with like, half of a tree sitting outside or whatever, if I got a chance, I'll grab my truck and I'll go by there and I'll grab it in and stuff like that. I've done like odd jobs cutting down trees for people and stuff like that. And I take the wood as my feed and everything like that. Like I got plenty of wood. It's easy to get wood around here in the Midwest,
Yeah,
I mean, out Bruce,
wood's
where you're
everywhere.
at, you gotta go to California, you gotta go to Hollywood to get wood, but we can't burn that. So, but out here, it's easy to get wood and stuff. You just gotta make sure it's dry. And so those two things are like my biggest thing, because when it comes to food, you can find food. I mean, I got some neighbors I can take care of, and have food for a couple of days if I need to, So, but yeah, you guys missed that one, but it's okay. I just said I would cannibalize my neighbors, but it's okay. We're not going to talk about that, I guess.
We're bouncing up against the hour, and I want to keep it down to an hour for this podcast. So, hey guys, this has been freaking great conversation. It's a great subject that we got going on. We had a couple of guests that were going to come on. They kind of weren't able to coordinate that. So hopefully the next show, which is going to be in 2 weeks, will be about something totally different. So hopefully we're going to be doing something about outlaw drag racing, and we'll see how that works out. But
yeah, and we're not talking about drag story time drag racing.
No, we're not talking about drag.
Make sure you talk about that. It's actual
no RuPaul
in cars. Yeah,
we're talking about in car stuff. All that stuff that Ken's all crazy about. But yeah, so everybody, before we leave, let's plug our own stuff. Go ahead, Ken.
So yeah, thanks. MaddK Studio, MaddK Studio.com. That's where I do my artwork, and I feature mostly automotive art and stuff like that, but I'm also a general artist. So if you need something done, or there's a lot of merchandise on there for you to buy and prints and originals there, so it's MaddKstudio.com. Go check it out.
Chris.
Yeah, so Harkos anywhere online. Just make sure you're not getting the ones from like Indonesia or whatever, because apparently Harkos over there was like a sign of good luck or something. So everybody,
I just sent them $2,000.
Yeah, well, you can't do that, man.
Crap.
Oh, and to speak of that, so if y'all, I didn't get paid, but I just went and saw this movie today. But The Beekeeper, it's a good movie. It kind of talks about frauding old people. So there you go, Ken. Make sure you watch that so you protect yourself. But Well, I can call you old too. God damn it! I'm the only one who's a millennial. Y'all are Gen Xers or Boomers. Okay, so we'll be good. But yeah. Anyway,
this is podcasting with a fetus. Grandpa and the fetus, and I'm sitting in the middle like Jan Brady.
Exactly. But anyway, so yeah, musicmakingsense.pod.com for any and everything Music Making Sense Pod. That's where I handle things. I mainly focus, like I said at the beginning of the show, on helping musicians and artists and stuff like that with their branding, website development, content creation strategies, and everything like that, marketing strategies, email marketing, everything like that. I mean, I've been doing it with podcasts as well too. I kind of helped Bruce set up this one a little bit with the website a little bit, but I've helped out another person out of Jason Staples Network get his podcast up and running and help with video editing, everything like that. I'm kind of a jack off of all trades, so that way I can pretty much help out anybody I need to, because I took a different route to getting my skills. Some people like Ken, they went to college and stuff like that, and no shitting on Ken because he a badass artist, so something worked. But like for me, I didn't have money and I couldn't fucking stay in school, so I spent my time and I learned my own skills. So I taught myself how to video edit, so I didn't have to pay a video editor. I can make my own music videos and everything like that, and I've done multiple for myself and other people. I didn't know how to I taught myself how to make a website because I didn't want to pay somebody X amount of dollars to do that, so no matter what you're doing and stuff like that, get skills, and you can at least use them for yourself to get yourself off the ground. And then after that, you can start helping other people, because that's what I do, is I help other people with all the stuff I just mentioned, whether you got a podcast, e-commerce business, or you're a musician. That's basically where I focus.
Absolutely. Jason, go.
Yeah. horribledesigns.com. Got the sense of humor of a 2-year-old, so might as well get paid for it. Do pretty much, let's see, mugs, mouse pads, stickers, magnets,
awesome t-shirts.
T-shirts, yeah, the one that I did for Ken that he's wearing, I did that for him. T-shirts, hoodies, done some hoodies for some of Ken's friends. And koozies as well, and I also do take on some custom work as well.
Cool. And I'm Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul here, and I'm the producer of this podcast, the creator of the Weathered Soul, and we are all about homesteading, prepping, gardening, horticulture, anything you need to know about that. That's what I'm about. Go to my website, weatheredsoul.com. That's Weathered Soul. That's weathered without the last E in there. And you can go there and you can sign up for our newsletter, which is going to be coming out very soon. And I really appreciate everybody coming out and watching us, and there's a couple of people that came in, a couple of likes that we got. I really appreciate Ken and Chris and Jason for being here. Every time you're going to get us here twice a month, and the next time that we come across, we'll have something totally different for you. But for right now, like I said, the best or the only winning move that we got is to not play the game. You guys have a great day, have a great week, and we'll see you next time on the Weather Report. See you later.